The morning was supposed to be light-hearted, bright smiles, warm coffee, and easy conversation. The kind of morning that makes the Today Show feel like comfort television. But not that day. When Meghan Markle sat across from Roker under the glow of the studio lights, something in the air shifted. The laughter in the control room softened. The smiles on the crew's faces tightened. And as the red light on the camera flickered on, the temperature in Rockefeller Plaza seemed to drop by 10 degrees. It was just after 8 a.m. Outside, crowds waved signs and flags, bundled in scarves against the New York chill. Inside, the set gleam made a perfect lighting, fresh flowers, and the low hum of early morning energy. Roker straightened his notes, flashed that familiar, comforting smile, and looked straight into the lens. Welcome back to Today. Joining us now, actress, advocate, and former Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle. A round of polite applause. The faint clatter of a coffee mug off camera. Then Meghan appeared, a graceful, immaculate, composed, dressed in ivory and beige. Her presence commanded the space like a carefully rehearsed performance. Good morning, Meghan, Al said warmly. It's great to have you. Thank you, Al, she replied, her smile poised. Always nice to be invited. Her voice was soft, but her tone carried an edgy, refined, measured, with something unspoken beneath it. Al laughed lightly. You've been incredibly busy lately. Public appearances, charity work, new projects. What's been the most fulfilling part of this new chapter for you? Meghan tilted her head slightly, that faint, knowing smirk forming. You know, I'm always amused when people call it a new chapter. My life didn't begin when I left the UK, Al. I've been doing meaningful work long before the cameras started paying attention. The words were polite, but the temperature in the studio dropped another degree. Al nodded, keeping his composure. Of course, I meant since you and Harry moved back to the States. So many of our viewers are curious how you've both adjusted. Meghan's smile didn't falter, but her eyes sharpened. Adjusted? There's nothing to adjust to when you're finally allowed to breathe. We're happy. We're centered. People should stop assuming that change automatically means struggle. A few crew members exchanged looks. Al held his steady, practiced smile. That's wonderful to hear, he said smoothly. Family life seems to be treating you well. Of course it is, Meghan replied quickly. I know the tabloids love their stories, but the truth is simply boring. We're fine. Actually, we're great. Some people just have a hard time accepting that. The pause that followed was sharp enough to slice through the silence. Let's talk a bit about your time in the UK, Al began carefully. Looking back, do you have any regrets about how things unfolded? Meghan's expression didn't change, but the air around her did. Regrets? Number. I think the real question is whether they have any. I made choices for my well-being, Al, and that seems to make some people uncomfortable. Her voice was calm, but the message was a blade wrapped in silk. I understand, Al said gently. You've spoken before about compassion and healing. Healing, she interrupted, doesn't mean revisiting the past every time a journalist needs a headline. The entire studio went still. Even the lighting rigs seemed to hum louder. Al drew in a slow breath, unflinching. All right, he said. Let's pivot. How's life in California treating you? Meghan exhaled softly, her shoulders relaxing if only a little. California is home. The sun, the openness, so it's a breath of fresh air, miles ahead of certain other places. Al smiled. Like England? She arched her brow. You said it, not me. A ripple of laughter echoed off camera, but it didn't last long. Do you ever miss it? Al asked gently. The traditions, the duties. Miss it? Meghan repeated. No one misses being micromanaged by centuries-old customs. It's the 21st century, Al. I prefer building my own traditions without the hierarchy. Fair enough, Al replied, still composed. Speaking of traditions, you've had quite a career shift. Any chance you'd ever return to acting? Meghan let out a quiet laugh, for one that didn't reach her eyes. People love asking that. But no, Al, I've moved on. I don't live in reruns. Al chuckled, but his smile had tightened. Of course, but your fans are wonderful, she said, cutting him off. As long as they understand boundaries. I'm not a character anymore. I'm a person. Of course you are, Al said softly. And we're grateful you're sharing your story. Meghan tilted her head, her smile tightening. Some stories, she said, are worth hearing. Others just get retold by the wrong people. The cue music hit. Cameras faded to commercial. Meghan adjusted her blazer without looking away from Al. Somewhere in the control room, a producer whispered what everyone was thinking: this is going to explode before the hour's over. When they came back from break, the tension hadn't dissolved either, it had thickened. The lights seemed brighter, the air heavier. Welcome back to Today, Al said, voice calm but clipped. We're here with Meghan Markle, talking about her life after the royal family. If by after you mean finally living life on my own terms, she said smoothly, then yes. Al smiled thinly. You've spoken about freedom and independence. What does that look like for you these days? It looks like peace, she said. It looks like waking up without someone telling me what to wear, how to behave, or how to smile. That sounds liberating, Al said. But some would say the media attention hasn't gone away. Maybe it's even grown. How do you deal with that? Meghan laughed a sharp, humorless. Deal with it? I don't deal with it, Al. I rise above it. There's a difference. People can speculate all they want. It doesn't define me. Al stayed calm. You mentioned speculation. A lot of it centers on your marriage. How are you and Harry doing these days? Her gaze hardened. We're fine. I know people want headlines, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. We're solid. We have a real marriage, not a performance. That's good to hear, Al replied, though there were rumors. Rumors are what the media does best, she cut in sharply. Maybe that's why people can't separate truth from fiction. The control room went silent. Well, Al said with a careful smile, we like to let our guests set the record straight. I didn't come here to clear anything, she snapped. I came here so people can hear the truth from me, not from strangers who've never met me. Even the cameras seemed to lean closer. Understood, Al said quietly. Let's shift gears. You've built quite a platform of podcasts, documentaries, philanthropy. What's next? Next? Meghan smiled tightly. Growth, evolution. I don't operate on anyone's timeline. My work is about purpose, not profit. Though I realize that's hard for some people to grasp. The jab hung in the air. Al didn't bite. Well, he said, speaking of purpose, you recently attended an event in London that happened to coincide with a major royal ceremony. Some thought the timing was a broken bar deliberate. Meghan blinked slowly. You mean to suggest I plan my life around their calendar? That's adorable. Al chuckled politely. It's just that people noticed the overlap. People notice everything, she replied. That's what happens when you live rent-free in the public's imagination. But I don't play games with the royal family, Al. I've earned my place. Her words landed like thunder. Al stayed steady. Do you still speak to them? I think some relationships are better left in peace, she said coolly. Specifically with William and Kate? He asked gently. I'm not interested in discussing people from my past, she replied quickly. It's fascinating, really, how people are obsessed with whether I text someone I used to share balcony space with. A few uneasy chuckles. Al's expression barely shifted. All right, he said quietly. Let's talk about your life in America. How does it compare? Oh, it's incomparable, she said instantly. The freedom, the creativity, the diversity. It's a far cry from gray skies and gossip chains. Here, I choose who I am every day, and I don't have to apologize for it. That sounds wonderful, Al said. Though you're still quite admired in Britain. Meghan's eyes glinted. Admired? I'd call it scrutinized, maybe even villainized. But sure, let's call it admiration if it helps people sleep better. Al's smile faltered, then returned, thinner than before. Before we go to break, one last thing. Any chance you'd ever return to acting? Meghan laughed, low and sharp. Acting? I think I've done enough of that for one lifetime. The silence was immediate. Al looked down at his notes, then up again. That's an interesting way to put it. Honest is interesting, isn't it? She said. Sometimes, he replied softly, and sometimes it's just unkind. For a moment, just a flicker, her composure cracked. Then she straightened. Well, I've never been one to sugarcoat for comfort. The producer signaled the next break. The tension didn't move. By the time the cameras rolled again, The smiles were gone. What had begun as a morning show had become something else, something raw, electric, unpredictable. "Welcome back," Al said quietly. "We're continuing our conversation with Meghan Markle." "Meghan, I'd like to ask about your public image. It seems to follow you everywhere." "Public image?" she echoed. "That's a convenient phrase. It assumes there's a difference between who I am and who people think I am. I don't wake up asking permission to be liked. I just exist." Al nodded. "Some people have pointed out a contradiction. You've said you value privacy, yet you've shared a lot about your life through interviews and documentaries. How do you reconcile that?" Meghan's smile froze. The contradiction question. Sharing my perspective isn't surrendering my privacy. It's reclaiming it. It's called control, Al. Something women are rarely allowed to have. "So for you, that's empowerment." "For me," she said, voice firm, "it's truth." He nodded slowly. "Critics have suggested that some of your projects feel more like rebuttals than reflections. What do you say to that?" "Critics," she said, almost spitting the word. "People who judge others for daring to live honestly. I don't owe explanations to people who consume headlines instead of humanity." The silence that followed was thick, almost tangible. "When you look back on your time with the royal family," Al asked finally, "what stands out most?" Meghan leaned back. "The performance of it all. The smiles, the expectations of its theater, Al. People buy the illusion because reality is harder to face. I was supposed to play a part in their fairy tale, but that's not me." "Do you think your acting background helped you handle that?" She smiled dryly. "No acting class in the world prepares you for that. Hollywood wanted talent. The palace wanted obedience." A quiet murmur rippled off stage. Al pressed on carefully. "Do you think that experience still shapes how you see yourself today?" "I don't see myself as a role," she said sharply. "That's the problem. People want labels: a duchess, actress, villain. Maybe try seeing me as a person for once." He nodded. "You've spoken a lot about control and the media, but do you ever think some of that same energy of confrontation comes from you, too?" Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "I just mean," Al said evenly, "you're outspoken. You defend yourself, but sometimes it seems to fuel more controversy. Do you ever worry about alienating people who once supported you?" "You're suggesting honesty alienates people?" "I'm suggesting delivery matters," he said softly. Her jaw tightened. "So what do you want me to be? Softer, more palatable, smile through double standards?" "I've done that, Al. It didn't work." He held her gaze. "No one's asking you to smile, just to recognize that people listen more when they feel respected." "Respect goes both ways," she replied coldly. "Maybe the media should try earning it before demanding it." "I think the media's job," Al said quietly, "is to ask questions, even hard ones." "Sure," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm, "as long as they don't make anyone uncomfortable." Al sighed. "Let's talk about something more personal. Princess Diana. Many see parallels between her experiences and yours. Do you feel connected to that legacy?" Meghan froze. "Diana deserves peace, Al. She's not a comparison point." "I understand," he said gently. "I only meant No, she cut in sharply. "You meant to make me emotional, to paint me as another tragedy waiting to happen." "I'm not her." Silence. "You're right," Al said finally. "You're not her." But she faced the press with courage. Sometimes courage isn't fighting, it's listening. For the first time, Meghan blinked. Just once. Then, "Maybe I don't have patience for double standards anymore." "Patience isn't weakness," Al said quietly. "Or maybe it's complacency," she shot back. Their eyes locked. Two professionals, two worlds, neither willing to yield. And in the control room, someone whispered, "This isn't an interview anymore. It's history."